All right, man, peace. So the ESPN show The Jump, they had a very good little segment on Kyrie Irving, and they were asking the hypothetical question of who is the best clutch performer in the NBA right now. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
I want to talk about Kyrie Irving because I don't know. Feels like we should just show video of a burning fire here. That should be the only video we show. Instead, here's the Celtics game against the Mavs last night. Kyrie scored 10 clutch points in overtime. Boston extending its winning streak to 16 games. And we know this is hardly, my friends, the only time Kyrie has been clutch. Roll it, producer Danny. 2015, Kyrie's game-tying three versus the Spurs, helping the Cavs win an OT. He also scored a career-high 57 points in that game. Oh, and then this past Christmas, you may remember, Kyrie driving on clay, hitting the game-winning fadeaway to beat the Warriors. If that looks familiar, it might be because you're remembering Game 7 of the NBA Finals. Kyrie, the go-ahead three. And look at Kyrie, LeBron all together on the court, happy, celebrating. Times have changed. Is Kyrie?
Times always change.
Kyrie the most clutch player in the league right now?
Well, before the homosexual basketball analyst Israel Gutierrez answers that question, I'm going to answer it. Yes, I do believe that Kyrie is the best clutch performer in the NBA right now. Of course, this is an old segment. This was during the 16-game winning streak of the Boston Celtics. But I did save this segment because I wanted to cover it when I had time. And now I have time, so I want to cover it. Yes, I do believe that Kyrie is the best clutch performer in the NBA. Number one, because he has the greatest diversity of offensive moves, probably of anybody in the NBA right now. He's a better finisher, even than Steph. And Steph is a great finisher at the rim. But I think that Kyrie's a little bit better. He's a little bit more explosive finishing at the rim. Now, he's not as explosive as a LeBron or a Russell Westbrook. But he's a better layup maker than either one of those guys, and he's a far better mid-range jump shooter and long-range jump shooter. Now, as far as regular season is concerned, Harden's also a very good clutch player, but he's terrible in the playoffs in the clutch. Kyrie is clutch no matter the scenario. And since he's joined the Boston Celtics, and he's joined their coach, Brad Stevens, his mental game has stepped up a whole other level. And now he's becoming a much better decision maker with the basketball. Even though he started off kind of pedestrian with his offensive numbers, I believe that by the end of the season, he's going to be averaging somewhere around 25 a game on about 47% from the field. You're going to see his proficiency numbers really skyrocket as the season goes along.
Right now.
I'm going to put him very high up there. I'm going to go him and Kevin Durant are my two favorites in that situation.
I like KD. KD also has a great diversity of offensive moves. But the problem with KD, as we all know, is that he's mentally fragile. And he's prone to bad games in big spots. Not so much last year, but I think that last year with Golden State, he really didn't have the pressure on him. And he recently came out and admitted that he's not a leader, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's good for a man to admit and acknowledge his limitations. It allows him to perfect his strengths. Right? When you acknowledge what you don't know, when you acknowledge your weaknesses, it allows you to become better. Kevin Durant knows that he's not really a leader. This is as per an interview that he did, okay, where he stated that. And I agree with him. I've been stating that for the longest time. That's why Golden State was the perfect place for him. It was a place for him to go because Golden State really is not it's not a place where you have a discernible leader. Steph is a co-leader. Kevin Durant is a co-leader. Of course, Draymond, he's probably the most vocal leader, but he's not the leader offensively. So, they really have more of a democratic type of setup there, kind of a republic. So that's perfect for Durant. There's not too much pressure on him. But Kyrie is an alpha. Kyrie has to be he has to be the lead guy. He can't be anybody else. So that in and of itself makes him a more clutch player, because he's going to attack pressurized situations in a much more aggressive manner than a KD. All right? KD is great, don't get me wrong, but I would rather have Kyrie taking a clutch shot than Kevin Durant. I've seen Kevin miss too many clutch shots.
Because of his ability to, first of all, get anywhere he wants to on the floor with that handle. There is nothing stopping him. That pick and roll with Al Horford is so good.
Yes, that's great right now. That's working really, really well. Al Horford is a very underrated player. Even though he shoots that ugly set shot, that ugly set shot goes in.
But really, the thing that I always look for in a guy in a clutch situation is ability to get a good shot off, or any shot off that, because of your skill level, is a good.
Wow, look at his clutch stats right here. Field goals, 24 out of 39. That's over 60% from the field in clutch time.
Is a good shot. And Kyrie, because he can get anywhere on the floor, and because his shot is so pure, and he's such a great finisher from everywhere.
People forget Kyrie won a three-point shooting contest. I can't remember which year it was. I think it was 2013. One of those years he won the NBA three-point shooting contest. He's deadly anywhere from the basket all the way out to about 25 feet.
Like, I think he might be top of my list for clutch players. And I'm going a little bit further, actually. I'm sorry, Steph. I actually think Kyrie's my favorite player in the league right now. I mean, it is impossible to take your eyes off of him.
I might have to agree with that. You know, it's for me, it's Kyrie and Steph, or Steph and Kyrie, 1 or 1A. You know, depends on the day. But those two are definitely my favorite players to watch in the NBA. LeBron obviously is phenomenal. James Harden, he's okay to watch. Westbrook I compared to a great action movie on a Saturday afternoon. You know, you just home chilling at the crib or something like that, relaxing, doing whatever. You flipping around, you see Rambo First Blood is on AMC, or Die Hard is on, Cinemax or something like that, or Predator. You sit down and you watch that, you know you're going to be entertained. That's Westbrook to me, and Harden a little bit. You know, when you watch the Golden State Warriors, that's like catching The Godfather Part 2 on TV. You know, a truly great film. But, you know, some of these other guys, they're just action movies. Kyrie is moving towards the Oscar level movie category.
The skill that he has, and just what he does, and having the ability to be the leading man, which is what he wanted. And what is he doing? He's answering that. He's playing defense. His defensive numbers are great. The guy, like, what can you say about him?
So he's been hitting clutch shots, Rach, since he was 19.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
He made clutch shots for the Cavs right as soon as he came into the league. He has always thrived in the fourth quarter situations.
Yes, because he has ice water in his veins. Kyrie does not look at the fourth quarter as any different from the first shot of the game. That's the reason why he's able to perform so well under pressure. Also, remember, he was raised in an environment with a single father. So the energy that he received in the home was not based around emotionality. It was based around execution. You either get the job done or you don't. That's what happens when you're in an environment with a functional man, a functional father. Everything is results oriented. You either get the job done or you don't. And that's the reason why you tend to see those players be much more aggressive in clutch spots. Whether it's a Larry Bird, a Michael Jordan, a Kobe Bryant. You know, those are the guys that you tend to see are much better in clutch situations. Now, guys who, you know, may be a little bit more emotionally bent, they tend to have issues mentally in clutch time. You know, you have a guy like a Westbrook who was raised with a strong father. He doesn't perform well in the clutch, but he's almost too aggressive. He's suffering from almost too much masculine energy.
Now, I think as the season goes along, we're going to see a really good cat and mouse game. This happened last year with Isaiah Thomas. Remember Mr. Fourth Quarter? Teams started throwing everything at Isaiah, and Brad Stevens was having to come up with countermeasures, and it worked. They kept winning.
Yeah.
And this is what I think is going to happen with Kyrie. We're going to see teams start trying to throw stuff at him because they don't have to worry about LeBron anymore or Kevin Love anymore. And really, that Celtics offense is still 20th in the league. They don't have a lot of guys to work with there, certainly.
Yeah, but you know what? They're going to get better as the season goes along, especially as you see the further development of a Jason Tatum, a Jaylen Brown. They're not going to end the season at 20th in the league in defense. I think, in offense. They're going to end probably around 14, especially with the execution. Their level of execution is par excellence. And you're going to see as Kyrie gets more and more comfortable with his teammates and more confident in their ability not only to make wide open shots, but to create their own shot, they're going to go up as far as offensive efficiency ratings. And so is Kyrie, because a lot of proficiency numbers are based on your ability to make the right decision at the right time. And that's conducive with trusting your teammates and the offense. So those things are going to get better. The main thing that you want to see with a new team like the Boston Celtics is defense, defensive affinity, people sticking to their principles. And that's what you're seeing with Boston right now. Defense will carry the day because defense will allow you to win those gritty games like they were able to win against Golden State.
Certainly, you're not afraid of Marcus Smart. So I want to see how this keeps going. But
That's why I think Al Horford really makes you pay.
You know what's so funny about Kyrie? People are talking about him, as an MVP candidate.
Right.
His stats actually are down from last year.
Well, that's because they're looking at the game. It's the eye test. When you look at Kyrie, you can't look at stats right now. It's the effect that he's had on the team. And yes, right now he is an MVP candidate. I would not put him number one right now. I'd put James Harden number one as my MVP candidate. Even though I said I need to watch the whole season for James. As far as his performance, right now he's the MVP if we're going to go by regular season performance. But I would not give him the MVP this year just off of what he did last year. I need to see James Harden have a great season this year and then perform well in the playoffs and then come back next year and then maybe give him the MVP if he has a similar performance. But just off of performance thus far this season in the first however many games they played, 21 games, I would have to say that he is the MVP of the NBA right now. Even though, that it's hard to give out those type of accolades, even hypothetical accolades with only 1/4 of the season having been played. But Kyrie is probably 2 or 2A right alongside of LeBron.
His shooting percentage is slightly,
Yep.
but even his scoring per game and everything is down. He's not even playing at his highest level. I actually think he can be better.
He will be better. By around the All-Star break, you're going to start to see him really mesh with his team.
Than he's even shown.
Right. I don't know if we have his clutch stats to put up, but they are remarkable, and it's amazing.
They just put the clutch stats up a couple minutes ago. What are you watching?
Now that we can look at this, that the NBA measures it, because we talked for a long time during Kobe's career, but Kobe's the most clutch player in the NBA, and then when the analytics came out on it, didn't quite bear it out.
Well, look, I'm glad you said that. I've always said Kobe is one of the most overrated players in regards to clutch performance, but a lot of his fanboys, they're fed the Kool-Aid and the narrative. Now, what Kobe does have is a great mentality in clutch time. He's totally unafraid. And that comes from being raised in a male-dominant environment. Right? The difference is that Kyrie is much more proficient, as we can see by his numbers. But Kobe's always been overrated in the clutch. But, you can't tell his fans that. They'll talk about he's hit the most game winners. Well, you should hit the most game winners when you've taken the most game winning, when you've taken the most game winning shot attempts in game winning situations. You should have the most game winners. All right, but when we're talking about proficiency level in clutch time, even LeBron is more clutch than Kobe, according to the numbers. All right, now we're not even going into Jordan. Like that's way out there. That's Pluto.
Look at Kyrie. This bears it out. Look at this. This is crazy,
Look
guys.
at your numbers, especially.
It was such a disservice to him for people to say, look what he did as the leading man his first few years in Cleveland, and think that he...
Well, that was the liberal sports media trying to demonize Kyrie. They were trying to judge him by his first 3 years before LeBron got there. That's what people do when they're trying to perpetuate a narrative. It's like the idiots who say that Michael Jordan never made it past the first round until Scottie Pippen got there. People grasp at straws. I've said this before. Scottie Pippen got to the Bulls in the 87-88 season. Go ahead and look at the stats in the first round series against Cleveland. The reason why Jordan got out the first round in 88 wasn't because of Scottie Pippen. That was because he was finally able to avoid the Boston Celtics, okay? Who are probably one of the top 3 teams to ever be in the NBA. Those Bird, McHale, Parrish, Dennis Johnson, Danny Ainge Celtics. That's the reason why he got out the first round. Okay. They played the Cleveland Cavaliers in the first round of 88 instead of playing the Boston Celtics in 86 and 87. All right. The 86 Celtics are the greatest team ever, and the 87 Celtics went to the finals. And if it wasn't for Kevin McHale breaking his foot, who knows what they could have done in that finals against the Lakers in 87. Okay? Kevin McHale had a broken foot, and Bill Walton also had foot issues. I believe he also had a broken foot, and he couldn't even play. Kevin McHale tried to play. All right. But in 88, against the Pistons in the first round, you guys can look it up. Jordan averaged like 43 a game against Cleveland, shot like 55% from the field. Scottie Pippen averaged about 6 or 7 points a game. Scottie was not the reason why they got out of the first round that year. They got out of the first round because they became better as a team. They won 50 games that year in the regular season, and I believe they were like the 5th seed or the 4th seed. And the Boston Celtics took a step down. So That's what happened with that. But anyway.
That he couldn't do it again, as if he can't learn from LeBron James and that championship culture the same way LeBron learned from Miami and brought it to Cleveland.
Exactly.
In fairness here, the reason that the Celtics have won 16 in a row is because they have far and away the number one defense.
True.
They're not winning just because Kyrie's scoring. That said, wow,
You need games like last night,
sure.
and there you go. The Cavs, meanwhile.
Yes, but you know that's part of winning basketball. People who are very surprised about the performance of the Celtics and the performance of Kyrie are going to try to nitpick right now because the liberal sports media, as I've stated in the past, are LeBron centric. They love LeBron. They're trying to really push him as a threat to the legacy of Michael Jordan. And I mean, look, it makes sense. It's part of the narrative of modern day sports media. You do want to have guys that come into the league every generation that you can pump up and push up and say, this guy is the best. Because everyone needs somebody to identify with every generation. They do the same thing in the NFL with Tom Brady. Right? Tom Brady's better than Joe Montana. But the difference is that at least Tom Brady has the hardware to justify the comparison to Joe Montana. Now, do I believe he's as good as Joe Montana? No, I do not. But it's different eras. All right? Joe Montana was able to play with the most talented with the most talented players, and there was not as much free agency back then. But his teams were far more dominant than these Patriot teams. But once again, Tom Brady has won with totally and completely different teams. So there's much more there's much more ammunition for somebody trying to push that Tom Brady is better than Joe Montana than trying to push that LeBron is better than or on the level of a Michael Jordan, as far as accomplishments are concerned, and certain little idiosyncrasies and things that you really can't put down on paper, right? The intangibles per se, the things that you have to really understand about the game. But Kyrie's coming, the Celtics are coming, they're a major threat, and they will be a major problem for anybody that faces them, whether it be Cleveland or Golden State. Now, I would give Cleveland about a 70% chance to beat them just because of LeBron. Right? LeBron is definitely the best player of his era. He's the best player since Jordan. Okay? He's the best player since Jordan. He's better than Kobe, and I will put him a smidgen above Tim Duncan in regards to the best player of the last 15 years. All right? And of course, you have Shaq right before that as the most dominant from about 99 to 2002. And then, of course, before that, you had Jordan. But, yeah, it's just funny how they try to push certain narratives. But anyway, we'll see how things go. Kyrie, as I've stated, is the best clutch player in the NBA. And they're going to need that in a lot of pressurized situations because their margin for error will not be as big as other teams. Peace.